Yeah.
Call this meeting to order. Call this meeting to order, June 15th, 6 p.m. Let's stand for the, thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call first, I'm sorry.
Jason.
Crosby.
Here.
Crosby here. Mike.
Here.
Jake.
Here.
Jim.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
Carolyn. Is she on? Not here yet? Okay. Craig.
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Mr. President, the meeting has been properly posted.
Thank you. Recognition. Joe?
Thank you. We have one recognition tonight. We would like to recognize Joe and Alice Whitmore for generously donating $6,000 to the MHS Choir Program. We're greatly appreciative of this generosity, and this money will be used to support our choir students.
Thank you very much for that donation. Board Member Gooch, do we have any citizens' comments tonight?
Yes, Mr. President, we do. We have one from Ron. Redkey. Okay, we're now entering the portion of the meeting for citizens' comments, whereby citizens may address the board. It is important to note that the board will not dialogue with community members during citizen comments section of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make his or her comments. We will signal you when you're at 2.5 minute mark to begin to wrap up your comments. We expect all speakers to honor the time limit, refrain from using inappropriate language, and be respectful in their comments. Citizens who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board/committee meetings. Speakers are to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by the members of the community here tonight. We would like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others and that our children are watching. We commit to listening to you in a respectful manner and ask that you do the same. We expect the audience will be respectful of the speakers and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or behavior that will detract from the meeting. If proper decorum is not adhered to, the board president can suspend citizen comments. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker will be cleared during public comments. Also, to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your phones. You have the floor.
Ron, I will keep the timer for you, okay? You're up. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for this privilege for me to do this. I was here last year and urged the board to encourage the faculty to teach our high school student body the Mukwonago alma mater. I read it to you that when I was here last year. I'm not sure what anything was done about it. I urge you again that it's kind of old-fashioned, but we do have an alma mater from Mukwonago High School. Music was and words were composed by the man director and a student. So I urge the council or the school board to inform the or suggest the faculty to make that something that the students know. Whether we use it at in festivals or not, just that they know they've got one and they should be ready to use it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, consent agenda. We're looking for approval for 1 and 2, the committee of the whole meeting of June 8th, and approval of vouchers and receipts. Any comments or concerns? Hearing none, passes. Review ACT 89 policies. Joe?
Yeah, so Act 89 was signed into law on September 1st, 2026. And this governs appropriate communication between employees and students. And this is tied to the grooming legislation that was passed. And so what we have in front of you are a handful of policies that address board member behavior, communication, and code of conduct. This 01445, the recent updates modernize the code of conduct to address the digital realities of social media and instant communication by aligning with 2025 Act 89 and giving the board options that align with staff and volunteer requirements. These new options create necessary safeguards for boards and student interactions to ensure that private digital conversations don't undermine public transparency. These are recommended changes but not required. 7544, use of social media. These changes are required by law to define appropriate content for digital communications and to address staff-student interactions. While the boundary and safety mandates are legally required, the specific designation of which platforms to use and the level of public inactivity allowed remain optional for school board decisions. Revisions in this policy are recommended for consistency with other policy changes. Policy 8120, volunteers. These changes are required by law to define appropriate content for digital communication. The rest of the changes are same as above. Child abuse and neglect. The revised sections concerning immediate parental notification for alleged sexual misconduct or unauthorized student representations are required by law under the statute. These changes are important because they create a standardized time-sensitive communication protocol that ensures families are informed when their child is a suspected victim of misconduct. These revisions are required. So what we have in front of us is our measures to ensure that students are safer, particularly in the digital realm, from relationships and guidelines from staff to how they can communicate with students.
One quick question.
Mike?
This may sound obvious, but a few members here have students or have children who are students. So does this have to be legalese by lawyers to allow that those type of communications are perfectly okay?
You know, there's provisions in the policy that allow parents to be in contact with their children, and then also provisions in the law that if you're a parent and your child has a friend group, you can still communicate in your capacity as a parent. This really governs people's official capacity, teacher, student.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
So we'll be bringing these back in July for approval. Just so the board knows and the community knows, we are going to standard communication apps across the district, and those will be posted on our website. So if a coach needs to connect with student athletes, it's going to be through a specific app. If teachers are to connect with students and families, it'll be through a specific app, and we'll be public with that. Text messages, any instant messaging, any of that will only be permitted through those apps, and those records then will be maintained by the school district should something happen.
Everybody on the same app, Joel?
It will all sports teams, or
The Remind?
it'll be
Is it the
approved, whatever the app that is decided. Andy Trudell, Stephanie Blue, Rachel, the handful of people are working on the approved apps. We'll have that for you in July, and then those will be posted to our website so our family and community knows which ones are approved.
So, I mean, I'm thinking for ease, it'd be one app?
Probably one app. We'll be using School Messenger for all teacher to family communication,
Oh, yeah.
teacher to student communication. But in the sports realm, there might be,
Couple.
Group Me,
Yep.
Team Snap, whatever might be the final choice is what, the athletic department is picking.
Got it. Thank you, Joe. Student Learning, Director's Report?
Hey, yep. At the Committee of the Whole meeting, I had 2 items. The first item was information regarding our 4K curriculum recommendation. And so Michelle Ziegler was here and she shared the process that was used and the recommended resource. We will be requesting that the board take action tonight to approve the Every Child Ready curriculum resource for 4K. And then the second item was an update on our literacy resource pilot for kindergarten through 2nd grade and then for Eagleville. And then the second item that I had was in regards to the academic standards. Tom, can you pull up that doc? So each year, the board needs to formally adopt the academic standards that will be used. The document that is displayed shows the recommended standards for each subject area. we are recommending adopting the Wisconsin standards for all areas. There were 3 revised standard areas this year, which were computer science, health education, and information and technology literacy. Those revised standards were shared with the board along with a summary of the revisions. And then just as a reminder, the standards provide what students should know and be able to do. However, they do not specify how we must teach those standards. So the district maintains local control and autonomy there. And so Michelle and I work with the teachers to really dig into the standards, decide which ones are essential, and then decide how we will address them. So I'm bringing this to you tonight for discussion. If there are any questions, and then it will come back in July for approval.
Anyone? Thank you, Angela. Student Services. Christine, Director's Report and Behavioral Update.
All right, the first thing I have tonight is just a quick review of what we talked about last week. So last week, Monday, we had Noelle Mengi here to talk about our student health services that we provide in all of our buildings with our health room assistants, and then, of course, her guidance as the school nurse. We talked about the CERTS framework, which was pretty cool. We had Katie Johnson, teacher at MHS, and Jen Tyson here to talk about the framework and the support we've been getting from Emily Rubin this last year. And then also we talked about how we are going to expand our early childhood services for our 3-year-olds into the form of a playgroup. Good.
Thank you. Any questions for Christine? Thank you, Christine. Tom, Finance and Facilities? Oh, I'm sorry. What's?
She has behavior update.
Oh, I thought you had, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was diving
It was thrilling, I can tell.
Sorry.
All right. So I do have the end of the year summary of behaviors, different things we've been working on over the course of the school year. Oh, I think this stopped working. Time you're going to have to advance it, I think. Maybe not. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the budget realities. I told Tom that I was going to talk about budget tonight, and he was excited that somebody else was going to be saying the same things. And the impact on special education. We're going to take a look at our mental health data over the course of the last 3 years. We're going to explore some of the discipline data, and then spend some time talking about celebrations and next steps. All right, so this first slide, actually slide 3 and 4 that we're going to be talking about, it's everything that Tom has said and talked about in past presentations. What is especially relevant to student services is the special education funding or lack thereof. So we know that per pupil revenue has lagged behind inflation. We know that the ESSER funds allowed us to provide students with much needed wraparound support in mental health and allowed us to increase the needs for special education referrals. However, when the funds dried up, the needs still remained. So we have to continue to explore how we're going to meet the needs of our students. We continue to see the impact post-pandemic now in our student behavior, and especially in an over-reliance on technology, which I know will be a topic in the future here at the board level, and then also a lack of social skills. Our special education reimbursement is still well below where it should be. I did put in here about referendum dependence. We are not a district that is dependent on an operational referendum to run, but this has become a standard way of doing business in many school districts. And I'm glad that in Mukwonago here, we have not had to. And I think that we can thank both the board and Tom Karthauser for his role in that and us being fiscally responsible. We also know that when we have fewer students and that students are leaving, whether it's for private or parochial, homeschool, or virtual academies, less students means less money. And that keeps our budgets tight year after year. All right, where it becomes especially relevant for when you start to talk about finance is that everything in special education is high cost, it's high need, and it's typically hard to fill. And so when we talk about hard to fill positions, if we can't fill them with the applicant pool that we are given when people apply, then we have to outsource to an agency to cover what is legally required services. So for example, if we need to fill a maternity leave and we have no applicants, then we end up going through like a temp agency essentially for teachers. And it is incredibly expensive, usually 2 or 3 times the amount of what we would typically pay. But again, we are required to fill that position and required to provide those services. Pandemic aside, the mental health needs of our students and families had already begun to rise prior to the pandemic and then continued to grow after. Additionally, we have things like our homeless population or students who are deemed to be homeless because they are doubled up with other people. That has continued to grow in Mukwonago and in our area school districts around us. We continue to see families who have long wait times to be seen by mental health professionals. And we continue to see a need, and we'll talk about this in a little bit here, a need for intensive inpatient or outpatient services for our students. Oftentimes our parents and families are going to try and get help and they cannot get in. They are literally turned away because there are no beds available for our students. We continue to see an English learner population growth in our district. So our schools need to work with agencies to help us with translation, whatever language we are looking to communicate in, and that includes finding translators for things like 504s and IEPs, where we would want to make sure that our parents and families understand the legal component of the meeting that they're sitting in. This also applies to different disciplinary matters that we have had to find translators for. Staffing shortages for special education services makes it difficult to hire and retain staff. Special education transportation also is very costly and is legally required. So for example, if we send a student to a different alternative school, perhaps based on a number of violations that they might have had, or is a student that needs to be placed elsewhere, in addition to a tuition rate that we pay to place a child somewhere else, we also have to pay to transport that student. So that can be anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000, and I think that's pretty lean when it comes to looking at the cost just to transport alone. If we can't find somebody in the district then to drive, then we have to look at Cab Motion or Seniors on the Go or some other agency to provide that transportation for us. Student services also, we face what we would consider to be a crisis response burnout. So our student services staff are often pulled away from the instruction that they are doing or the intervention groups they're running to work with crisis management during the school day. So if we have a student or a couple of students that tend to be dysregulated for long periods of time, we have students that need, or we have staff that need to tag in to manage crisis and step away from the preventative work that they are working on. All right, so this is really just putting those things together. So school districts are required by law to provide specialized evaluations and related follow-up services when needed. But the frequency and intensity of these vary from year to year, so it makes the budget a challenge for us to have adequate staffing. So for example, if we have a student who moves in that has a very unique need, such as being deaf or blind, we have to hire based on what students are in our seats at the start of the school year. And some of that stuff is just simply not predictable. And so that is also a challenge when we are looking to maintain a budget for myself anyway, that I have to then go to Tom and be like, hey, Tom, we need to make this higher. So that can be costly. And then this slide in general then brings us into the next piece, which looks at where we are in MASD with our special education numbers. So Jen Tyson mentioned this a little bit last week, but I just wanted to review it. We currently have 649 students with IEPs in the district. That's 14% of our population. In addition to that, we have 367 504 plans. So essentially, we have almost just under 22% of our students identified with an area of impairment within the district. Then when we start to look at special education staffing and why that is always a have to fill, need to fill position is because we are legally required not only to provide those services to our students, we also have initial evaluations that we need to do. So when we had 160 initial evaluations, we had an additional 73 speech-only evaluations. Of those two populations, 59% qualified under initial, and then we had 53 of the 73 qualify under speech and language. All right, this next slide just walks us through the area of disability. So you can see by just percentage that our highest area of need generally falls under services for students with disabilities under other health impairment at 159 of our students, or almost 25%. We also have a high number of students, 229, that receive speech and language. Just to highlight some of the higher numbers, you'll see that some of the smaller numbers like visual impairments, although we might only have 5 students, it's a high cost need, and that we may need to translate things into Braille. We might need to buy instructional materials that are larger, easier to see, might mean special technology pieces or equipment to meet the needs of the students. You can go to the next slide. All right, then just looking at mental health. We're going to spend a couple of slides here just looking at the first 2 slides are just going to look at Care Solace. This is a mental health navigation tool that I've brought to the board before when we originally purchased it, and then have wanted to bring back updates ever since. So we purchased this product back in July of 2023. And I just wanted to show a dashboard comparison over the last 2 years. In 24-25, we saw the greatest amount of use that we had. We had 114 cases, we had thousands of communications with families, and we had 51 total appointments secured. In 25-26, you're gonna see a significant, I mean, it's almost half of what it had been, in that we had 56 cases. And I can't see around Craig's head, but we had, there we go, 18 total appointments. And so we're going to talk about next steps on if that is a tool that we're going to continue to use moving forward. I don't know why we're not getting as much traction as we have in the past, but we haven't been. So that leads me to believe then that we need to look more at our families and our community to see what is going to be a better tool for them to get the help that they need. That being said, the referrals for care have not changed. So consistently, anxiety, depression, trauma, those are the top reasons that our families are continuing to seek care. Okay, the next one, go ahead.
What is the cost structure for Care Solace? Like if a decrease, I don't know if this is good or bad, right? A decrease like that, is it getting better or is it not being used, right? That could be a conversation, but
Yep.
if it's being used half as much, how does that?
Yeah, so it's a flat fee each year. So you pay I think originally it was $18,000 a year that we invested. And then that was a flat rate used for as many communications, as many student navigations that needed to be done, any number.
Probably based on enrollment or something?
Yeah, it's based on enrollment.
Thank you.
Did we start this in the?
July of 23.
Okay. And this was a 5-year contract, if I remember correctly, right?
3.
Okay. So we are on our last year.
We are. And actually, I was going to, Crosby, I think you're like the new voice in everybody's head. But I went back to them and told them we had another, actually one of the vendors was a former parent here once upon a time, and so he had come back and said that he had left Carosalis and went to a different health navigation tool. And so when I went back to Carosalis and said, hey, there are other people out there who are offering a very similar product for less money, they gave us this year for $10,000 instead of $18,000.
Okay.
So I think we will continue to shop around. I think the hardest part is that no matter what navigation tool we have, if the people don't exist to fill if there's no counselors or therapists available, there's no navigation tool that's going to fix that.
Right.
So
Does Solace have a mechanism for evaluating if this is just lack of use, or if we actually saw a surge because we had a great need and now everybody who had a need is now being taken care of, and now maybe we don't need it as much? I don't know how to parse that out.
I would agree. I don't know how to parse that out totally either, but I do think that the feedback that I have heard and the conversation that I had with Carosalis is that we are hearing from parents and families that it is taking too long.
Okay.
And that ultimately parents and families give up and just start to do it on their own anyway, which is not the purpose of us investing then in a mental health navigation tool.
Right.
So I think it is helpful to a degree right now. But we do continue to have a partnership with the Gals Institute. The Gals Institute is not on site like it used to be, but we do have a partnership with them that allows their therapists to come meet with students here if it is a family that they already have a relationship with.
Do we know when our renewal is up
For
for Carosalis?
after this year.
Like a date? And when do we have to let them know if we're going to renew? Is it an auto renew? Like,
It's not an auto renew
okay.
So one more school year.
this school year. And they offered us this last year at a reduced rate.
Okay.
So
Does it have to be a 3-year contract?
Talk on the microphone, please, Jason.
Thanks, Craig. Does it have to be a 3-year contract?
it does
or-
not.
Okay.
Nope, we could sign year by year. The hard part is just getting staff learning a new tool all the time, right? Like, so when we make a family referral, families who have had success using Carosalis is used to that system, right? Our staff are used to doing what they call a warm handoff, which is the referral process for a family. Then to have staff come back again in August and give them a new tool to have to learn, I didn't want to do that without some time for them to hear from the mental health navigation tool company, whatever resource we were using. I wanted some opportunity to work with staff before we would bring anybody else in new.
Jake.
So it sounds like there may be some concerns with like the timeliness. Now, I recall I believe when this began, the feedback was pretty positive initially, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was really more, I don't always get the feedback because the core of it is really to be able to take the work that needs to be done and give it to a third party so that our own internal people are not trying to navigate the mental health system in the private sector from a public school perspective, right? But occasionally I do hear back specifically from families who will come back and say, hey, I'm not having the greatest experience. And that will automatically makes me pause, and I want to know why.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? Okay. Then this is just looking at our student data on mental health. So this comparison looks at significant mental health concerns that are reported. And the word reported is important to note because it is data largely collected on second and third hand information that we receive. So for example, if a student goes inpatient, and we hear about that either from the student or from a family member or from like an actual parent or guardian, we don't always hear it firsthand from the hospital or facility that a student is being seen in. So When we're looking at this information, the first two columns compare elementary data from grades kindergarten through 6 from the 24-25 school year and 25-26. We did see an increase in suicidal ideation, self-harm, and suicide attempts at the elementary level. We also saw an increase in the number of students who received treatment in intensive outpatient or inpatient facilities at the elementary level. The last two columns look at our secondary students, so grades 7 through 12. This shows a slight decrease in the number of students or number of incidents reported. Actually, it's not slight. There's a significant decrease in the number of incidents reported. That said, it's important to remember that this is what we get, so it has to be reported to us for us to collect it. And then off to the side, I just have some notes that we've already touched on a little bit, but just that we will continue to work with those outside agencies. So whenever we have a student come back in, so if you're looking at a student who was inpatient, we create a safety plan for them to come back. We'll get a discharge report from a student. A family will share that with us. They will come back into school, and we will create a plan that helps them to be successful back in our building. We continue to have the opportunity for students to see a therapist during the school day if, and this does not happen a ton, but if it works in a manner that a student can attend a virtual or online therapy session and still come back to class to be emotionally regulated. We have a memorandum of understanding that we use to facilitate those conversations. I mentioned we do have a relationship with the Gals Institute. We will continue to have that. Life Stance comes up to the high school. They were formerly Cornerstone Counseling. They continue to come up there 1 day a week. That is, the Life Stance, though, is completely private pay. We do continue to partner with our county resources staff. We are offering another first aid and mental health training next week, I believe. And so we're excited to bring in a new crew. We are also looking at how we could create that first aid mental health training from a 8-hour extensive component down to a 2 or 3 hour piece that we could invite community members in for and have some roundtable discussion and learning around. We continue to grow our internal resources. We have tools that we're constantly exploring, especially as we're looking at our PLC model and how we are addressing that corollary question of if a student isn't learning, what are we missing? Is it an academic need? Is it an emotional need? Is it a mental health need? What is it? Is it social skills, life skills? What do we have to be looking at? And then we continue to work collaboratively with our parents and community resources. We are always, if you go into our elementary buildings, you will always see our teachers, our principals engaged in conversations with our families who need a little extra support for a period of time. All right, our next couple of slides, we're gonna look at behavior data. So I think this next slide, you guys are gonna be super excited to see. It's just an update on our cell phone policy. So if you recall, last year Stephanie came to the board meeting to talk about where we were at with violations. It was the first year we had put in the cell phone policy violation piece into place. And so we went from 414 original first offenses down to 163 this year. That's huge. Again, I mean, just follow the numbers, right? Like 143 down to 45, from 59 down to 14, 22 down to 2, right? Like you couldn't ask for better numbers than that. Our staff have been diligent about enforcing our policy, and our students have settled in around the concept of not being able to have their phone. Now, we would be naive if we didn't think that there was a phone being opened in another location, like, I don't know, a restroom or something, during a school day. I don't know. I don't have my phone on in the bathroom. So, but I think that in general, like, our kids have done a great job. They understand. The best side effect of the policy has been the increase in noise because our kids are talking again. So super proud of this data, super proud to work with MHS as a partner in both administration and with the teachers. And I think most students would say it's been a good thing. So this next two slides are going to look at some behavioral trends regarding suspensions. So we have trend data for the last, since 22-23 school year, so you'll have 4 years of trend data here. For our elementary schools, when we're looking at in-school suspensions, so students are suspended but are asked to remain at school to finish the day. Our elementary data had an increase in the number of in-school suspensions. Our middle school had a decrease in in-school suspensions, but an increase in out-of-school suspensions. And our high school data stayed relatively the same, little bit of a decrease from last year. When we're looking at our out-of-school suspension trends, we had an increase in elementary, an increase in middle, and then again stayed relatively the same for out of school. So I think when we are always realigning practices, procedures, systems, when we see in-school suspension trends go, so if we, at the middle school, we had less in-school but more out of school, that makes sense. At the elementary level, I think we are seeing commitment and an overall alignment around how we are responding to behavior in the classroom.
I have a quick question on that.
Sure.
How do we decide what's an in-school and what's an out-of-school suspension?
I would say that's largely up to our building administrator. There are some things, though, that are just out of school. Like you're in possession of something, you are out of school. You put hands on another kid, you're going to be out of school. I think sometimes it depends on the time of day. So if a student, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and instead of having a student go home, we may choose to keep them in school suspended. Might depend on the time of year. So there's a lot of other factors that go into play into determining whether it's going to be in school or out of school.
Okay.
In all reality, in school we don't have a system that works great for in school. I think the high school would say that they would convert the majority of their suspensions to in school if they could. We just don't have a supervised place right now. Same thing with the middle school.
I was just going to say, in-school suspension is far more effective than out-of-school suspension. Out-of-school suspension turns into a vacation day. It's video games, it's sleeping late, it's not wake up at 4 a.m., here's a shovel, there's a pile of gravel, you're going to work on that all day long. It is
Can
literally...
we create that in the in-school suspension?
I don't know.
I'm
We'd
all
have to
for
look
it.
at the corporal punishment policy for that. But we do try to do in school as much as possible for those lower level suspendable violations, because out of school is sometimes a vacation.
Okay, because I would think that out of school would potentially, or at least hopefully, get better parental engagement, because now they have to, not in high school, but in middle school and elementary school, now you have to take a day off work because now your kid's home, right?
Some parents, absolutely. There are other parents, we've had kids get picked up for an out-of-school suspension, and the parent will say, all right, we're going to go home and play video games together all day. So,
Awesome.
that, right, that you don't want to positively reinforce negative behavior.
Okay.
So I'm very ignorant on this question, I'll admit it. Do we have detention rooms, or is in-school suspension kind of like a detention room?
We don't have detention rooms per se. If a student has an in-school suspension, let's just use the high school as an example, they may be seated at the high top tables out by the associate principal offices, or they'll use that fishbowl room, room 109, because that can still be monitored because it's a glass window, so you can still see through from Carrie Walzek's desk.
And do you know, a lot of new people, but did we ever used to have detention rooms in Mukwonago High School or Mukwonago Middle School? And if not, has it ever been considered?
So considered,
Board Member
yes.
Gooch, I was never in a detention room in my career.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, we'd have to look into that, Mike, historically, if it's ever been used. I think school districts more and more have gotten to a place where you can't afford to staff the in-school suspension room the way it once was, or the detention room as it once was. We do have students who serve lunch detentions, and similar to what Christine was saying, they'll sit at the high top tables, or they'll sit at a desk right outside the middle school principal's office. But
Kind of like a detention room.
it's like a detention room, but it's not the old, like, the warmest room in the building with the worst lighting and some classical music playing where you had to stay awake all day. That's not what exists any longer.
Board Member Gooch, we're not bringing back the paddle. We're
All right.
not going to do that.
Thanks for fielding those questions, just throwing it out there.
You bet. So was there any other questions before I moved on? All right, and the next slide just goes over the top 5 suspension incident categories. So when we go into EduClimber, I worked with Ben Casal just to pull this data to look at, well, if our students are being suspended, why are they being suspended, and what does it look like between the elementary, the middle, and the high school? So the aggressive category of aggressive behavior was new this year. We added that as a recognized need from our building administrators. It was a code that we didn't have before. There isn't anything particularly surprising about the data that I'm looking at, or the top 5 incidents, the top 5 incident categories. I do want to note that down in the lower right-hand corner for high school in the year 25-26, you'll see that inappropriate behavior pulled twice. That second inappropriate behavior where it says 5 incidents, that should say inappropriate language. So I just want to, and then where it says multiple others tied, it just means that there were other same number of incidents for a number of different categories. Yep.
Is inappropriate language in 2026 the same as we would have expected when I was in school?
No.
30 years? Okay.
Mm-mm. No. You can go to the next one, Tom. All right. This next piece just looks at our pre-expulsion meeting data. I know I've talked about this. I know some of you are new, but we did do a work session. I think I did one last summer where we talked about what a pre-expulsion meeting looked like or sounded like. So over the last 3 years, the number of meetings have stayed relatively, really relatively tight in number. What is different about this year's data is that out of the 42 parent meetings I had, 7 of those incidents were repeat offenders. So that really does, I mean, once you take the repeat offenders out, we are seeing a nice decrease in the number of meetings we're having to have. So unfortunately, our substance use is staying pretty steady at, I would say the majority of our meetings that we're having, again, are related to substance use. In particular, THC vapes and vaping in general continue to be something that our students are battling with. So on the other side, down the right-hand side, you're going to see the relevant board policies. Those are the board policies and the reasons why we come together to have a pre-expulsion meeting. I will tell parents, and I will specifically talk to students about the fact that it was a student that made that choice, not mom and dad, but I really appreciate mom and dad being there. But anytime we have a significant violation of a school board policy, we are going to come together as a team. And we need to talk about why it happened and what we're going to do differently moving forward. All right, then I just wanted to do a quick overview of bullying. So looking at incidents and investigations. Bullying investigations are a very specific process and procedure. So we have to ultimately, at the end of an investigation, our administrators are looking to see if the following 4 questions, how they're going to be answered. So was the act deliberate or intentionally, oh my gosh, I can't talk. Was this deliberate or intentionally use of words or actions? And that must be a yes. Was the intention to cause fear, intimidation, or harm? That must be yes to meet the threshold of bullying. Was there an imbalance of power? And was a repeated behavior? That can be yes or no. So whenever our building administrators are looking at an alleged situation of bullying, they're looking to see if they can substantiate that through evidence. So they will be looking at video cameras, they will be looking at witness statements, they're going to be pulling camera footage, social media posts, whatever they can to see if we can find an evidence to suggest or an evidence to verify that it did happen. This last year, we had 52 confirmed and 32 unconfirmed bullying investigations. When I say it's unconfirmed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it happened or didn't. We couldn't prove that it happened. We didn't have anything to say, here's the evidence to say that it did in fact happen, and here's why we know that. Last year, we had 37 confirmed. So this year, 52. Last year, 37. 19 unconfirmed last year, 32 unconfirmed this year. I also think that as we continue to norm, and Joe, I think you can speak to this also, as an administrative team, we are constantly coming around. Here's a scenario, let's talk through it. What would you do? What would I do? And then bringing that back and rooting that in board policy. And then, go back one more time. Off to the side, you'll see the official Title IX investigations. I did update this, I changed that number from 2 on the original one to 4. So we did have 4 official Title IX investigations completed. Those investigations are then completed by Rachel Herman. So I just wanted to put that on there.
Just real quick, is there something that we can do in 5517.01 to more draw down those 4 questions, just so that there's more continuity, instead of, well, Joe thinks it might be an imbalance of power, but, you know, Luke may not, you know, just so that there's more consistency from building to building and administrator to administrator?
We do meet with our principals once a month, and we do have discipline norming as a topic every month, or not every month, but about every other month. We do use a preponderance of evidence standard before we make a determination. So when we say this is bullying, it really doesn't come down into I feel. It really is looked at as, what does the evidence show? What do we have in text message? What do we have in video evidence? What did students report to us? That standard then helps us answer those 4 questions. We also norm with our principals. So if a principal is sitting on the fence, this is what I have, what do you think? And they'll reach out to Christine, they'll call me, they'll call Ben Casso, they'll call Rachel Herman. They'll ask those same questions to it. So these often are not unilateral, I think it is, I don't think it is. These are things that are being looked at pretty significantly every time. And the policy that we have does align with what the state statute requires. And those 4 guiding questions are 4 guiding questions that attorneys have recommended over time, so that you really kind of stick to what is the purpose of this, and what is the outcome then of the policy and the investigation.
Busby.
Do we ever see blatantly false bullying accusations? Like, have we ever, through an investigation, identified that they were lying?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I could ask that question to our
Is there
building
a
administrators.
consequence for the student who
Absolutely.
would make that up? Okay.
Crosby, I think one of the things that we hear, though, is the word bullying is used.
Yeah.
It's grabbed at. You know,
Right.
if you and I get into a fight on the playground, my mom might call and say Crosby bullied my son, when we have video evidence that shows the 2 of us were, you know, getting
Right.
after each other just the same. So the term bullying is something that has been, I think, overused. It's something that's very it's very serious. It's something we need to take into consideration very seriously. But an argument between 2 students does not constitute bullying. You know, actual fight between 2 students doesn't constitute bullying. That's why we follow those questions.
Okay.
Okay, you can go to the next slide, Tom.
Christine, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I thought you were done.
No, I have one more slide.
You're doing great.
Are you tired of me, Greg?
No, not at all.
Okay. So this, hey, I'm the only presentation tonight. The next part is just the next steps for us as a system. So we are going to continue to work through recommendations for Care Solace, for whatever a mental health navigation tool might be if we need to take a different step. We continue, just as Joe just said, to calibrate around behavior incidents and investigations. And more you will see, especially over the last 3-4 years, as our administrative teams have stayed relatively stable, our policy implementation and code of conduct also continues to remain stable. We are continuing to work on our multi-tiered systems of support. So that is our intervention model for both academics and for behavior. We have our behavior committee that will, I think we're gonna have some couple of meetings this summer and then also meet again next year. We have responsive mental health monitoring tools in place, and we are gonna continue to celebrate our successes when we see, so just a quick success story that was not in here, but I had a student who I had he was at one of my frequent flyers that I had meetings with. I really did not know how that was gonna end. The language was different than what I might have used in a meeting, Jason, to your point, during our pre-expulsion meeting. But that student went on, he like never gave up. He came back to work here 1 hour a week. He met with one of our homebound teachers, and he recently just graduated. And with his class, we thought he would be a super senior. And so when you see like little situations like that happen, like you can't help but celebrate that there were a whole lot of people pulling behind that individual student, and he graduated. And I am so proud of him. Everybody in the office, he like became our student everybody wanted to see. So he was just a really cool kid. He's gonna go on to do amazing things. And those kind of stories, like I can't put that in a graph to show you that, but the people that we have in our system make a world of difference to our students who are struggling and our families who are struggling. So professional growth-wise, we're gonna continue to do the work that needs to be done. So we're gonna continue to do the mental health first aid training to whoever will listen. We have the CERTS training that we're gonna continue this summer. Very proud of that. We have some elementary peer student coaching that we're gonna continue. We also bring in training, so for behavior threat assessment. I know that I mentioned that last time in one of our reports, but what Joe just handed out to you was what we received from the Office of School Safety when they came to present. So you'll find 4 books in there. One is the U.S. Secret Service Analysis of Targeted School Violence, a toolkit for strengthening the K-12 reporting programs, averting targeted school violence, and then this blue covered one is the school safety threat assessment model that we use. I've talked about this before. I took a bag for all of you. It's really light reading, but what I think is the most important piece for us is in this particular little summer reading, but I wanted to bring one for all of you. And then as far as community and culture goes, we're gonna continue to work on the whole child, right? So we need to find out if a student isn't learning, why are they not learning? And what can we do to intervene in an actionable manner? The Stronger Connections grant that we had been awarded a couple of years back, we've been able to do some, I know that we did the PlayWorks for the 1 year and then that model was discontinued, but we were able to continue to work with leadership opportunities with our 5th and 6th grade students. We were able to bring in some intervention training around math for this summer, actually. We were able to bring in that CERTS training. So there were a lot of really good investments that were made with that money. And so super proud of the lasting work that those fund dollars will have on students. That is all I have.
I just had one other question before we started interrupting your entire presentation. I think it's on slide 6 for special education. You had mentioned that there's about 22% of our student population that receives some form of special education. Is that high? That seems high.
It does seem high, but it's pretty consistent with neighboring areas. Remember though that those 367 504 plans, those are not considered to be special education. They're a 504 plan, which provides like what we would what we would say is evening the playing field. So if a student needs extended time because they have a hard time focusing or they need to take a break, those types of actionable pieces can be done in the general education classroom without an IEP. But you do have to meet an area of impairment to have a 504 plan.
Okay.
Crosby, one of the things that the state used to report that the average was about 11% of the population. The state has seen that that is pushing up 14, 15% in school districts now. So that's a statewide increase post-pandemic.
Okay.
Jason?
This may be a little bit of a deviation from the topic, but I can't help but ask, you know, we're talking about cell phones in the high schools and all the great things that happened once we removed them. Why hasn't this become a district-wide conversation with Parkview and all the schools?
The cell phone policy applies everywhere.
It's everywhere?
Yep, yep. Parkview managed it very, very well for many years. Not to say that they weren't out in the hallways, but Parkview always had a pretty good handle on it. MHS for a long time, it was kind of a free-for-all, and when Stephanie and her team took over, they really put the clamps down on that. Okay. But that policy does apply all of our buildings all day long.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else for Christine? Thank you for the bags, Christine, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Karthauser, Finance.
I just have a quick director's report for you right now. I'll just walk through it on the screen here real quick if you're all right with that here. First thing I do is I give you a fund-by-fund snapshot of how much funding we have remaining as of June 10th. So I have no concerns about our budgets going over in any of the areas or in any of our funds. Next thing I do is I simply report on our salary expenditures. I'm going to fast forward to that here. I have a short exhibit there. We look fine, so I'm just taking a look at payroll by payroll, how much we've spent and what percentage of the budget we've eaten into. So as of the last payroll, we were at 97.2%, and I predict that we'll be about 99%. So we'll be about 1% under budget. No concerns there. I report very quickly on our cash position at the end of April. You can kind of see all the way on the left-hand side, 2017, 2018, all the way to current school year, where our April cash balance landed. Again, we're slightly lower than the past couple of years because of a transfer from Fund 10 into Fund 46 in July 2025 and the expenditures on our Verkada safety system. And then lastly, just giving you guys a quick update. Our current referendum for the middle school authorized us to borrow $89.1 million. We have borrowed $82.1 million. We still have $7 million remaining. We'll bring forward information in August for you to consider. And if you're cool with it and approve it, then we'll borrow that last $7 million in August. Just giving you a heads up right now. That's all I got.
Anybody for Tom? Eric?
Tom, that the referendum money that we had, stacked in a fund, we were gaining interest on. Are we still doing that? And
oh yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how much have we drawn out for construction costs?
Yeah. So I'm gonna use this exhibit right here to answer that question. If I go to Fund 49, so this is called referendum proceeds, we have a $32,087,000 budget. We have spent $13.3 million. So we have about, the cash flow projection that we estimate, like when will the funds be needed? We work with Kurt Wiebelhaus. We're spending more slowly than we thought, but we are revising when we place the proceeds into CDs for 4 months or 8 months. We time that up as best we can so we have access to the funds, and we just revised our upcoming cash flow projection really for the 26-27 school year, and we work with a firm called Ampersand out of Waukesha. They are taking that cash flow projection and then placing things into CDs accordingly so we max out interest rates as best we can. So yes, we're still doing that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Tom. Action items. Hires, retirements, and resignations.
We have one staff member that was offered a contract for the upcoming school year, Amanda Brissett, art at MHS. She'll be effectively starting on 8/12 of 26. We did not have any changes in contract. The following employees submitted a resignation: Tiffany Crabb, art from Parkview Middle School. effective 6/30. And then Lauren Lemke, occupational therapist, submitted a resignation.
Make a motion that we approve the hires and resignations as briefed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, motion passes. Oh, yeah, sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
She said
Carolyn was an aye.
Okay, motion passes. Number 2, 4K curriculum recommendation.
Right, so again, at the Committee of the Whole meeting, Michelle Ziegler presented information regarding the resource we are recommending for our 4K program. That resource is Every Child Ready. So we are looking for the board to take action to approve adoption of that resource.
Make a motion that we approve the Every Child Ready curriculum as briefed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, Veterans Memorial.
At the Committee of the Whole meeting, Kurt Wiebelhaus was here and explained the overall site plan, kind of the status of where things are at as it pertains to the Veteran Memorial project that could happen or will happen on the Parkview site. The board approved that a year ago, that they could move the Veterans Memorial there. What we have looked at is what does that project look like, and then what are the costs associated with the project. Last week we presented that the overall project is in the ballpark of $500,000. There's 2 components to that project. There would be enhancements to our site. So we were already going to put in a sidewalk. We were going to put in American flags. We were going to have a concrete stone bench that was going to go in there, and there was going to be a circle. So based off of savings in the project, and because this is our site, it is still our property, we are requesting and coming to the board for approval of covering the enhanced walking path and foundations so that when the Veterans Memorials are ready, when they've done their fundraising for the granite monuments, the site would be ready to accommodate that.
Joe, have you heard any updates as far as how far along they are?
Haven't gotten any updates yet from them.
So just to be clear, just for anybody who's listening, we had planned on doing this. The enhancements would have to be made anyways if we were going to put this, the memorial in, right?
Yep.
So if we didn't approve it and we went with the original plan, we would be ripping up concrete in the future to put in reinforcements, the thicker concrete, the wider pathway, et cetera, correct?
Correct. This is getting the site prepared for what it is. We had always planned to have a sidewalk from the corner of Veterans Way and 83 onto the property. We had always planned for the flagpoles to go there. We had always planned for the bench to be there. These site enhancements allow for the property to be prepared for when the veterans groups, the American Legion and the VFW, when they have their funds together for the monuments.
Eric, hang on. Do we have to make a motion before we have discussion?
Typically motion.
Okay.
And then
Eric,
second.
Hold
and then
that thought,
discussion.
Eric. You want a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Thank you, Eric.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more comments?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of looking into this. The VFW, or the American Legion rather, has a bunch of contractors that they want to bring in, and they're going to provide their time for free.
Mhm.
And I just hope that that's something that we can work in with this as well.
So
Some concrete guys and stuff like that want to, instead of giving money, they want to give their time. So, and their labor.
Kurt Wiebelhaus is coordinating those in-kind donations. So when the veterans groups approach us, they'll be able to kind of, the contractors who are offering their time will be able to fit into the project that way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll just add for other people, as Crosby did for other people watching, that the monuments portion is defined in the letter, that they're going to fundraise on their own to pay for that. We are not paying for that.
Thanks, Mike. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Policies.
So we have had these policies on the agenda for 4 meetings. Questions have come in earlier on. Those questions have been addressed through policy or through answers. We're requesting approval of the batch of policies that you have in front of you this evening.
Make a motion that we approve the batch of policies that are listed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Policies will pass. Number 5, student service restructure.
So last week we presented an idea. Christine has led a discussion in her department to take a look at how the leadership and how the guidance can go. We have and we continue to study all of the positions in the school district, and through study and an analysis of the job, we're requesting, or we're coming forward to request that the board approve this restructure by promoting Jen Tyson to the position of Assistant Director of Student Services effective July 1st. You saw her present last week. She's got an incredible background. She does a great job for us. What this does for us is it takes an administrative position out of the district. So we're eliminating an administrative position. We are looking at a teacher position to help support that. There was a confidential memo that was given to the board that outlines salary, benefits, and the details of the savings. So, we're requesting approval of that this evening.
Make a motion that we approve the student services restructure.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just want to point out to the public that there's a little over a $15,000 annual savings for us doing this.
Yep.
Thank you.
And just as an aside to that, if I may, when Dustin Lehman resigned his position mid-year, we looked at the CTE coordinator position, and when we hired Christine Perkins into that role, we looked at how many days does the contract require. We reduced the number of days, and as a result of that, we reduced the overall contract savings, with that. So, so the board knows, so the community knows, when these positions, when somebody vacates, we do take a hard look at how we can go about replacing that in the most efficient manner that we can for our system.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Where were we here? Sorry. Student fees. Tom?
All right, so I have the student fee schedule that I brought last week. I'm looking for approval of the student fee schedule here tonight. If you have any questions, I'll answer them for you.
I'll make a motion to approve the student fee schedule.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Preliminary budget.
Okay, so I have a snapshot of the fund-by-fund revenues and expenditures. We're looking for to approve a preliminary budget that we would present to our voters or electors at the annual meeting. Again, we will adopt a final budget in October once everything is finalized here. But looking for permission tonight to adopt this, and we'll implement this as our July 1st preliminary budget.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 26-27.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Eric?
So, just out of curiosity, when we go to, I think it's like page 5 for salaries for administration, if you do the math, it appears to be a 5.77% increase from 25-26 budget to 26-27 budget. So I'm sure there's a whole lot more into that. Is that just something you can talk about, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Eric. So if we're taking a look at Fund 10, under the expenditures, revenues are listed first, expenditures are listed second there. You can see under all of our expenditure objects have a 3-digit number. So you see 100 are salaries for administrators, 110 is salaries for teachers, 111 are salaries for when teachers give up their prep period and they sub for another teacher, so on and so forth. So just walking back in time here, we didn't always track it this way. Showing you our 25-26 final budget booklet, we are mandated to show 3 years worth of information. So last year in our final budget, we would show the 23-24 audited final expenditures. In 24-25, we present what's been budgeted, what was budgeted, and then what is being audited. Our audit wraps up. This is a budget we adopt in October, but our audit finalizes in December. In 25-26, then, that's the budget we're proposing and ultimately adopting. You can see that we used to just really lump everything in 110. We just said 110 is salaries for everybody. But starting in the way we executed our budget throughout 24-25, we said, let's get more specific so we can answer questions like that and look at what's administrators, paraprofessionals, coaches, school board salaries, food service workers, the whole bit. You can see every area, all these buckets. We're now able to fast forward and take a look at, pardon me here. We're on the right spot here. We can take a look at what did we spend in 24-25, what did we budget in 25-26, what did we spend as of any given date? This was June 4th, 2026. And then what do we have budgeted for next year? So, Eric, you ask a question. We structure the data to ask questions just like that. There's certain buckets of money that are difficult to say, based on who's the employee, what are they doing. Typically, that's a really easy question to answer. But sometimes there's things like a vacation payout. 12-month employees who have vacation, they earn their vacation are given as of July 1st. When they have that vacation and they submit halfway through the year their intent to resign or whatever it might be, there's a vacation payout that takes place. That's that's an earned benefit that they have accumulated. They could take that vacation and just leave and say, hey, here's my 2 weeks, I'm done. I'm just taking vacation for 2 weeks. We try to keep them working so that we can pass that baton cleanly. But a vacation payout's an example of, I don't know who's going to resign mid-year. We know we're going to need $25,000 for that, so I place that $25,000, which will be a future payout for any given. It could be a building manager. It could be any 12-month employee. I put that into administrative salaries because I'm the one who ultimately manages those pots of money. So other examples are overloads. When we look at the way classes are, who's teaching what, typically at the middle school and high school, we have to have overloads. I just don't know yet what building or what subject area, so we create a pot of money for that. I have not allocated that into teacher salaries. When we do our final budget, we will do that. We also have a number of mandatory trainings. Christine will do a lot of trainings throughout the summer when she has a room filled with physical therapists, school psychologists, and others who are doing perhaps safety training. We will bill that training to their particular account code, not knowing right now as I sit before you which employees are going to be in the room with Christine. I create a pot of money that's ultimately in the administrative bucket for now, but that money then is available for Christine. So there's ultimately $188,000 of vacation payouts, overloads, IEP/special ed meetings, mandatory trainings, and other. Sometimes there's just unforeseen things with an employee who maybe there's somebody on FMLA, a front office worker covers both jobs for 2 weeks. We'll recognize that. That's additional effort. So not knowing exactly where those payments are going to occur, who's going to receive them, we know they're going to come. We budget accordingly, and I just put that money into salaries. The actual amount, Joe had mentioned earlier when Dustin Lehman left, we hired Christine Perkins. I believe that's a 10-month position. Am I correct on that one, Joe? Yep. There was cost savings there. It's a good question, Eric, and I should say this too. No administrative salaries have been awarded for 26-27. You, the board, will do that. So ultimately, you have the final say on that. Sorry, this is a long explanation. We have put additional funds in administrative salaries just as a temporary holding place until we know where those payments are going to be made.
Thank you for that long explanation, Tom.
Thank you.
Just trying to be transparent, though. It's a good question, but we built our data for that exact question. So if there's others, let me know.
Are you done now? Mr. Cardone,
I have
you
some
good?
more, but if you're okay and satisfied with that, I'll stop now.
Good job, Tom.
You did a great job.
Preliminary tax levy?
Still have to vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
We had a motion and a second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So
Opposed?
you can do it that way if you want to do a roll call vote. It's totally up to you. When we do the final budget, I'll ask you to do a roll call vote, but if you're okay just doing it's up to you.
I think we're okay.
Okay. All right, the next thing then is we have our tax levy, our 26, 27 preliminary tax levy here. So looking for approval of this. And again, we'll present this at the annual meeting and budget hearing. Do you guys have any further questions? I know a couple emails came in from citizens. I did my best to answer those. I'll admit that this isn't always an easily understood topic. Everybody understands this in a little bit different manner, so there's probably 17 different ways to explain this. The explanation that's required usually matches up with where's somebody at, like how do you understand this at the moment? But if there's something else I can answer, please let me know.
Is there any more discussion with the new budget they were discussing at Capitol?
Yeah, so the budget surplus situation, I've heard nothing new about that. I have heard it's not dead, although it's dead at the moment. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope that it comes through there. I believe in April or May, I let you know that it did not pass, and that was about $1.5 million, I believe. So as we take a look at the $37 million, I'm just kind of hovering over this right now, our total tax levy of $37.3 million, we could get like $1.5 million off if that is passed. That will be, in addition to the single-family tax refunds that are mailed into mailboxes, there would be additional property tax relief through lowering that number right there. But as of right now, no.
I make a motion that we approve the 2026 through 2027 tax levy.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Shared services.
So last week, you remember we hired a deaf and hard of hearing orientation, mobility, vision teacher. And the salary for the vision teacher was $100,000. Christine spent time working with CISA to take a look at what those services would look like. We did not have any luck with CISA. When you cover with CISA, you pay a lot of money. So Christine worked with a neighboring school district, the Wauwatosa School District, for a shared services agreement so that $100,000 employee, that would be a 70-30 split based off of time and need. So in order for that agreement to be fully executed, we need to pass what is called the 660301 agreement. And that agreement is spelled out through the resolution that you see in there, which I will read for the community. This agreement will be passed by the Wauwatosa School Board. It will be passed by the Mukwonago School Board. We will have the signatures then happen as a result of that, and then this agreement will be executed for this school year. Both school districts have what they need out of this person from a services standpoint. This is a budget savings for us. It's a budget savings for Wauwatosa. We don't have to pay any administrative overhead through a CISA program, so we see this as a good opportunity. These are relatively common, and for those of us who were able to attend that the work session with our neighboring school district, you saw them talk about these shared services agreements. So the resolution reads as follows. The resolution of the Board of Education of the Mukwonago Area School District authorizing an intergovernmental shared service agreement with the Wauwatosa School District for vision impaired service teacher. Whereas the Mukwonago Area School District, Mukwonago, and the Wauwatosa School District, Wauwatosa, are Wisconsin school districts and are authorized under Wisconsin Statute 660301 to enter into agreements for the furnishing or receipt of services, whereas both school districts have a responsibility to provide special education and related services to eligible students with disabilities in accordance with applicable federal and state laws, including services for students who are visually impaired. Whereas Wauwatosa has identified a need for the services of a licensed teacher of students with visual impairments to provide specialized instruction and support to students within the Wauwatosa School District. Whereas Mukwonago employs or intends to employ a licensed teacher of students with visual impairments and is willing to make such an employee available to provide services to students in the Wauwatosa School District pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement. Whereas the Board of Education finds that entering into a shared services agreement promotes efficiency, expands access to qualified personnel, supports compliance with students with individual education programs, and serves the educational interests of students in both districts. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Mukwonago School District as follows. Authorization of the agreement. The superintendent or designee is authorized to direct, negotiate, execute, and administer an intergovernmental shared services agreement with Wauwatosa for a teacher of students with visual impairments. The employment status, the teacher of the students with visual impairments shall remain an employee of the Mukwonago Area School Districts at all times during the agreement. Mukwonago will be solely responsible for hiring and employment, payroll administration, employee benefits, Wisconsin retirement system contributions, tax withholding and reporting, workers' compensation coverage, and compliance with employment-related laws and collective bargaining obligations if applicable. Nothing in the agreement shall be construed as creating an employment relationship between the employee and the Wauwatosa School District. The services, the employee shall render instructional and consultative services for students of the Wauwatosa School District who are visually impaired and require services under an IEP, Section 504 plan, or other educational program as authorized by law. Services may include but are not limited to direct special education services, functional vision assessments, and educational evaluations as appropriate, consultation with teachers, administrators, and related services providers, assistance with instructional accommodations and accessible materials, participation in IEP team meetings, family communication and support related division services, and other duties customarily performed by a licensed teacher of students with visual impairments. The direction, while remaining an employee of Mukwonago, the employee shall provide services under the operational direction of the Wauwatosa School District with respect to scheduling, student assignments, and educational programming. The agreement shall establish procedures for communication and coordinated between designated administrators of both districts. Cost reimbursement, Wauwatosa will reimburse Mukwonago for their agreed upon costs associated with providing the services, including salary, benefits, travel expenses, and any applicable administrative costs in accordance with the terms set forth in the agreement. The agreement shall specify billing procedures, payment timelines, and methods for adjusting costs. Liability and insurance is listed in here. Confidentiality and student records, termination, authority to implement, and then there is the be it further resolved, adopted this day of 2020. It will have this board president, the board clerk's signature on it, and then the next part recites, spells out the employment status of the employee.
Well done, Joe.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution that was just read by Dr. Cook.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Just a point of order. Tom, do you need us to do roll call votes on the tax levy and the budget? It was on your memo, so I just want to make sure that we're.
So I just suggested at this time when the final budget and final tax levy come through, then I'll ask you for sure, like,
Okay.
hey, redo that and please do it roll call style.
Okay.
But as of right now,
But we're
since
good for-
it was unanimous,
Okay, perfect.
we're fine.
Thank you.
Unfinished business. Joe?
Yeah, just at the end of the school year now, we've reached the end. I want to thank the MHS administration for a wonderful graduation. I want to thank our students, staff, and families for a great school year. Our July board meeting, we will do a year in review. So we'll, as the final data is coming in, we'll be presenting to the board and to our community kind of how the 25-26 school year went. We'll be able to share some of our academic successes, you know, what we've done with some of our programs, what we've done from a service standpoint, give an update as to how the new middle school is coming along, which, by the way, they poured part of the third floor today, 17 trucks, 170 yards of concrete. The crew started at 7 a.m. and they were out by 2 p.m. this afternoon. Very impressive. I got to walk up there and see it. I do want to say congratulations to our lacrosse team for the state final appearance. It was an outstanding game. It came down to an overtime decision. Unfortunately, we lost that. Our team played their hearts out in the fourth period. I think they scored 2 goals with 1 minute left in the game to force the overtime, a second place finish. I know that came short of what their goal was, but second place in the state in lacrosse was an awesome finish. So congratulations to them, and then more to come on what the year was like in July.
Thank you, Joe. I had the same thoughts about graduation. Really classy. Kids were great. Teachers were great. Parents were awesome. We had fun as a school board. The school board members that showed, I thought it was a great time. Fun. Kids were pretty happy to be there. And I also had to walk through the Indian athletic performance area this morning. And I mean, they're just kids everywhere, working hard, having fun. It was pretty neat. So that's all I have. Do we need to,
I make a motion to close the open session
Thank
and
you.
go into closed session.
Second.
roll call, please?
Jason,
Yes.
Crosby, yes. Mike,
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
And then we will have a need to go into open session after that.
We will not.
We will.
Closed session.
I make a motion to approve a 2.63% cost of living increase for support staff, pupil services staff, district office staff, and other professional staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Joe, do you need a roll call on that?
We do not, it does not require a roll call.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.